Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted deeply? Imagine this. You've invested time, energy, and love into a relationship, only to discover that the person has been unfaithful. The shock feels like being hit by a tidal wave of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. It's a moment that could break anyone. But here's the twist. What if it could also be the beginning of your greatest transformation? Let me share a story. Meet Mark. Mark believed he had found his soulmate. Together, they dreamed of vacations, a future family, and a life of happiness. Then came the day he discovered her betrayal. His initial reaction? The natural one: confront her, demand answers, let the emotions explode. But then, Mark paused. Instead of shouting, he chose silence. Surprising, right? And yet, that silence became his greatest ally. The power of silence. Imagine this. A storm of emotions swirls around you: betrayal, anger, confusion. But instead of reacting, you choose to stand still. Silence isn't a sign of weakness. It's the ultimate declaration of strength. It's like a well-timed mic drop in the middle of chaos, one that leaves everyone stunned and speechless. When betrayal strikes, every fiber of your being might scream for you to lash out, to demand explanations, or to seek closure. But here's the twist. Silence is the unexpected move that flips the script. It doesn't just shield your peace. It sends an unspoken message to the betrayer: you haven't broken me. I'm above this. Let me take you back to Mark's story. Mark, a man who believed he'd found his soulmate, had his world turned upside down by betrayal. Vacations, future plans, even dreams of a family, all built on a foundation he thought was solid. Then one day, it shattered. What would you do? Confront them? Demand answers? That's what most people would expect. But Mark did the unexpected. He said nothing. Silence that speaks louder than words. Mark's silence was more powerful than any argument could have been. His ex tried everything to provoke a reaction. Endless texts, calls, and attempts to engage him filled his phone. She couldn't understand why he wasn't responding. Every unanswered text was like a mirror reflecting her own actions, forcing her to sit with the weight of her guilt. Isn't that a poetic kind of justice? You see, silence is a language of its own. It doesn't beg for explanations or demand apologies. Instead, it lets the betrayer wrestle with their conscience. When words stop, their imagination takes over. And here's the kicker. The scenarios they imagine are often far worse than reality. Mark's silence wasn't about avoidance. It was about control, control over his emotions, his dignity, and his future. Instead of handing over his peace to someone who didn't deserve it, he held on to it like a treasure. Why silence is strength, not weakness. Think about it. When you engage in arguments or plead for closure, you're handing over your power. You're letting the other person dictate the narrative of your emotions. But silence? Silence flips the dynamic. It says, I don't need to explain myself. My worth isn't tied to your validation. Have you ever noticed how silence can feel louder than any words? It creates space, space for reflection, for growth, and for the other person to sit uncomfortably with the consequences of their actions. It's like standing in a courtroom where the judge refuses to engage, leaving the guilty party squirming in silence. Mark didn't need to shout, blame, or argue. His silence did the heavy lifting. And here's the beautiful part. Over time, it became clear to his ex that she couldn't manipulate the narrative. His silence forced her to confront the reality of her choices. The emotional weight of silence. Silence isn't easy. It requires discipline and self-control. But the rewards? They're immense. Mark discovered something profound. His silence wasn't just for her benefit. It was for his own healing. Instead of spending his days replaying the betrayal or crafting the perfect comeback, he focused on himself. He poured his energy into self-improvement, hitting the gym, picking up hobbies, and reconnecting with friends who truly valued him. His life didn't just go on. It leveled up. And his ex? She was left wondering. What was he thinking? Was he hurting? Had he moved on? The silence haunted her far more than any argument ever could have. The mic drop moment. Here's the ultimate truth. Silence isn't about bottling up your emotions or pretending everything is okay. It's about choosing your battles wisely. It's about recognizing that some people don't deserve the privilege of hearing your voice. Mark's story didn't end with silence alone. His journey was one of self-discovery and growth. He became stronger, wiser, and more confident. And when his ex eventually reached out to apologize, she realized something startling. Her words no longer held any power over him. By then, Mark didn't need closure because he had already found it within himself. His silence wasn't just a response, it was a transformation. And that's the power of silence. It doesn't just protect your peace, it reclaims your narrative and propels you toward a better future. Why does silence work so well? Because when people don't get a reaction, their imagination runs wild. Suddenly, they're left to fill in the blanks, often imagining scenarios worse than reality. Think of it as the reverse of offering them closure. You leave them with questions, not answers, and that's far more impactful. Why react when you can reflect? Think about this. Betrayal stings. The urge to confront someone who hurt you can feel almost irresistible. Your mind races with thoughts of revenge, clever comebacks, or the perfect words to make them understand the pain they've caused. But here's a question. Is reacting really worth it? Every moment spent in heated arguments or emotional exchanges is a moment you could use to rebuild, to rediscover your strength, and to move forward. Why waste your energy engaging with someone who already proved they don't value your trust? Instead, what if you flipped the script? What if, instead of reacting, you chose to reflect and grow? From reaction to redemption. Take Mark's story as an example. When he discovered his partner's betrayal, the old Mark might have lashed out, texted long paragraphs, demanded explanations, or even tried to make her feel the pain he was enduring. But this time, Mark did something unexpected. He paused, took a deep breath, and decided to redirect his focus. Instead of arguing, Mark channeled his emotions into action. He joined a gym, not just to stay active, but to reclaim control over his life. Day by day, as he lifted weights and ran miles, the anger started to fade, replaced by strength and resilience. Mark didn't stop there. He picked up books on personal development, filling his mind with wisdom and insights that reminded him of his own worth. He rekindled friendships that had taken a back seat during his relationship. In short, he stopped looking backward and started moving forward. The unexpected twist. And what about his ex? At first, she probably expected him to come crawling back or engage in endless arguments. But when Mark didn't react, her attempts to provoke a response fell flat. Instead of the predictable drama, she saw something unexpected. Mark leveling up in ways she hadn't imagined. Months later, when she reached out to apologize, hoping for closure or perhaps reconciliation, Mark had a revelation. He realized he didn't need her apology. The version of himself she had hurt no longer existed. Through his journey of self-reflection and growth, Mark had become someone stronger, wiser, and happier. Why reflection is the ultimate power move. Here's the truth. Reacting is easy. It's a knee-jerk response to pain, a way to release pent-up emotions. But reflection? That takes strength. Reflection means stepping back, assessing the situation, and deciding what's truly worth your time and energy. When you choose to reflect, you're making a powerful statement. I value my peace more than I value winning this argument. It's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about channeling them into something constructive. Mark's story is proof of this. Instead of letting the betrayal define him, he used it as a catalyst for transformation. He didn't just survive, he thrived. And in doing so, he took back the power his ex had tried to take from him. Your energy is precious. Use it wisely. Imagine if every ounce of energy you spent on arguing, overthinking, or seeking revenge was redirected towards something that made you better. Whether it's hitting the gym, learning a new skill, reconnecting with loved ones, or simply taking time to heal, the choice to invest in yourself pays off in ways no argument ever could. And here's the kicker. When you grow, the people who hurt you can't ignore it. Your transformation becomes the loudest response of all. It forces them to confront their actions, not because you demanded it, but because your progress speaks volumes. The real win. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to make the other person feel bad or regret their actions. The real victory is finding peace within yourself. It's realizing that your worth isn't tied to their validation or apology. Mark didn't need his ex to acknowledge her mistakes for him to move on. He had already found closure in his growth. His journey was his own, and it led him to a place where her opinion no longer mattered. So, the next time you're tempted to react, pause and ask yourself, why react when you can reflect? Why waste energy on someone who doesn't deserve it when you can invest that energy in becoming the best version of yourself? Turning pain into growth. Betrayal, as painful as it is, can be a powerful teacher. Ask yourself, were there red flags you ignored? Did you compromise too much? Pain isn't just something to endure. It's a tool for transformation. Reflect, learn, and use those lessons to build a better future. Mark journaled, sought therapy, and read books like Attached by Amir Levine. When he started dating again, he was wiser and more confident. He wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. And isn't that the ultimate victory? The cleanest revenge. Revenge doesn't have to be dramatic. True revenge is about showing the world and yourself that you're stronger than before. Silence isn't about giving up, it's about rising above. It's the athlete who walks off the field with dignity, the person who smiles at life's curveballs instead of throwing them back. When you focus on your growth, you become a better, happier version of yourself. That's the kind of comeback that turns heads. What will you choose? Life's too short to dwell on betrayal. So, will you argue and stay stuck? Or will you choose silence and growth? Remember, your silence isn't just about them. It's about reclaiming your peace, your dignity, and your future. Take a moment today to reflect. Write down your thoughts. Hit the gym. Try that hobby you've been putting off. Most importantly, choose to move forward. Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you're reclaiming your power.